A clear, uncluttered, bright and powerful consciousness needs frequent rest periods, if its efficiency is to be maintained, and if it is correctly interpret reality. Otherwise, it distorts what it perceives. Learning processes are definitely hampered through our present habits, for there are certain periods when consciousness is attuned to learning, and yet we try to force learning during unrecognized minimal periods. Creative and psychic abilities are thrust into the background simply because of the artificial divisions we create. Dualities result that affect all of our activities. In some cases, we literally force ourselves to sleep when our consciousness could be at one of its maximum points. This is incidentally in the pre-dawn period. In certain afternoon hours, consciousness is lowered and needs refreshment that is instead denied. The characteristics of consciousness are the same whether you are in a body or outside of it. Our consciousness is a telepathic and clairvoyant, even though we may not realize it. In sleep we can be more conscious than we are now, but simply using abilities of consciousness that we do not accept as real or valid in waking life. Conscious is quite independent of time and space. After death, we are simply aware of the greater powers of consciousness that exist within us all the time. Our consciousness is not imprisoned by our physical body, but can create other portions at will. We are a spirit now. That spirit has a consciousness. The spirit may turn its consciousness off and on even now. Consciousness doesn't refresh itself in sleep. It is merely turned in another direction. It is the body that needs to sleep. Even when consciousness switched off, there would be a sort of twilight, but not darkness. The spirit is never in a state of nothingness when its consciousness is extinguished. We rely on the body to express the perception of our consciousness. We tend to identify the expression of our consciousness with the body. Close to death, the consciousness realizes that it can no longer express itself through the body, and then it just leaves. There is no point of death in reality. It's only again our artificial creation. Life is a state of becoming, and death is a part of this process of becoming. You just become something else. We are alive now, a conscious knowing itself, sparkling with cognition, amid the debris of dead and dying cells every second. Alive while the atoms and molecules of our body die and are reborn. We are alive, therefore, in the midst of the small deaths of every particle of a second. Portions of our own image crumble away moment by moment and are replaced, and we scarcely give the matter a thought. We don't even notice it. So we are alive now in the midst of the death of ourselves. If the cells didn't die and were not replenished, the physical image would not continue to exist. So now our consciousness flickers about our ever-changing corporeal image. So we are often so-called dead, even amid our sparkling life of consciousness. By dead means completely unfocused in physical reality. Our consciousness is not physically alive, oriented, for the same amount of time as it is alive physically and oriented, because once it's in physical reality and once it's not. We notice only the physical bits. For one moment, my consciousness is alive, focused on physical reality. For next, it is focused somewhere else, in a different system of reality. But we are unaware of the so-called unlive moments. So our pulsation of consciousness creates the feeling of continuity. All our structure of reality exists in the same manner. It flickers off and on as a rhythm of breath. There are overall rhythms, and within them an infinity of individual variations, almost like cosmic metabolism. If you notice, everything in the world has the same pattern. Off and on. The waves in the sea, the breath, the heart, everything. They are overall rhythms. Death is simply the insertion of a longer duration of that pulsation of which we are not aware now. A long pause in that other dimension, so to speak. And then suddenly the body realizes that it has been too long that it's not focused on, and it just dies. A simple, long pause. Consciousness is not dependent upon tissues of body. Yet, there is no physical matter that is not brought into being by some portion of consciousness. So consciousness is not dependent on body, but body does depend on consciousness. We identify ourselves with our body, while portions of that body die while it's still alive. It changes every few years completely. The body that I had 10 years ago is dead. Yet I do not feel dead. Even the pupils of my eyes have changed, yet there seems to be no gap in my vision. When it is in short pulsation, our perception is fine, no problem. But physical perception can't bridge the gap when the longer rhythm of pulsation occurs. Death experience is individual and depends on how the consciousness deals with mental experiences. The ideas that we evolve in our reality now will color our experience, for we'll interpret them in the light of our beliefs, even as we do now. So the way you think now will create the way you think later after death. Our consciousness may withdraw from our body slowly or quickly according to many variables. We always form our own reality according to our own ideas and expectations, whether we're alive or dead, because we actually never dead. Though all hallucinations are temporary, even if somebody believes in hell, it will only occur to him for a few seconds, because the soul cannot bear this too long. Consciousness must use its abilities. Even if somebody creates a heaven and sits on a cloud forever, trying to rest for the rest of the eternity, the boredom and stagnation of a stereotyped heaven will not long content the striving consciousness. It has to create, it has to change. It cannot bear too long of the same.